Alrighty, here we are with part 4 of our notes on urban geography. I realize what you are looking at right now. We went over in part 3. However, I believe I was off my rocker when I explained this. I had it right in my head, and I understand rank size rule, but I think I just sounded fabulous, but I said it all wrong. So I'm going to revisit it to make sure that you are hearing it right, especially for you auditory learners. Um, you are hearing the correct information. I believe on the previous example, I just halved everything, and that's not what it is. It is proportion, okay? So the largest city is 12 million, and I'm just going to work off this example first. Then half of the 12 million, the second largest, or half of it, is 6 million. Then the third largest, or a third of the largest city, is 4 million. And then the fourth largest is a fourth, 1/4 of the largest city in rank, which is 3 million. So yeah, let's try to use another number so you understand. Let's go with, oh, I don't know. What number could we do that isn't this? What about 30 million? Okay, so we have 30 million as our largest city. The second largest city is going to be 15 million. And then 1/3 of 15 million is what? Hold on, let me. 1/3, 15 million. Don't lose me here. Hold on. Would be 10.5 million. Okay, and then 1/4 of 30 million. 1/4 of 30 million would be 7.5 million. Okay, so we started off with a city that was 30 million. That was our largest city. Then proportionally, half of that is 15 million. A third of that is 10.5 million, and a fourth of 30 million is 7.5 million. Woo! That's a lot of math for me. So we're going to go with that. It is proportion. It is not having each one. It is a proportion. So you have your largest city, which is your whole number 1. Your second largest city, which is a half. Your third largest city is 1/3 the size of the largest city. And your fourth largest city is 1/4 the size of the largest city. Okay, I'm ready to move on. This has been fun. All right, central place theory, we discussed that. Hexagonal hinterlands and Kristaller. How are cities? We know what functional zonation, that is how they have. And of course, our concentric zone model from the 1920s. Our sector model, our Hoyt sector model from the 1930s. Our multiple nuclei model from Ullman and Harris from the 1940s, and then we had our edge cities and our urban realm models, which from Hartshorne and Mueller in your 1980s, and then we had our different spheres, Griffin Ford, different spheres, our Griffin models, our Griffin Ford model to kind of categorize and be able to structure cities around the world. And Griffin Ford is your Latin America, our very own DeBly model for sub-Saharan African cities, and the McGee model for your Southeast Asian cities. Um, and here is where we left off. Okay, how do people make cities? Periphery and semi-periphery, you have already heard those in reference to your 3-tier system. And what is the 1 tier that's missing? That's right, core. Okay. In these countries, there's a sharp contrast between rich and poor, and often lack zoning laws or enforcement of zoning laws. Remember, we did that urban um, our urban game in class where you had to make your own city, that most of your posters were lack of zoning. And I believe I did make mention of that during fourth period. You just, everything is goes everywhere. Oh, you want to put a store in? Put it wherever you want. Oh, you want to put houses in? Put it wherever you want. Okay? Lack of zoning. All right, here we have our two examples. Okay, middle class, planning, out, you see more rows, more utility poles, more paved roads. I guess you can't really see that in this picture. A little bit of lack of planning, multi-use areas. Okay, it's very paved road, but very small, right up the dirt. Okay, houses not necessarily following any type of zoning or code enforcement laws, just kind of put up wherever. All right, here is something I do think you will find interesting, or at least something you have not thought of before, but this concept of redlining. Banks, financial institutions, banks, refusing to lend money in certain neighborhoods, okay? And this goes with the concept of block busting also. Um, and the reason why is this concept of only lending to certain people, usually along racial classification. Okay, refusing to lend money in certain neighborhoods, so you cannot clean up your neighborhood, you cannot fix it up, you cannot try to make your house nicer and leave and stuff like that. And your book does a good job of that when you read it in there. And then this other concept of block busting. Realtors purposely selling a home at a low price to an African American family, and then usually a family, and then soliciting white residents to sell their homes at a low price to generate white flight. So think of, you have 20 homes in a block area or 2 blocks or at a cul-de-sac or something, I don't know, and white, all white families, okay, and then you get an African American family to move in. Well, when that happens, the neighborhood's going down, isn't it? That's not what I think, but this was the thinking of this concept, especially back in the 50s and 60s and 70s, okay? And when you brought in an African American family to this traditional white suburban middle class neighborhood, then it was seen that the housing prices would start declining. So the realtors, and this was all in the realtors, would then go purposefully go to these other white family homes in that neighborhood and go, oh, look, do you see who bought a house down the street? I know. Well, you want to sell yours? And then the realtors would make money. Okay? Then soliciting white residents to sell their homes at low prices. Oh, you need to get out. Your house is not worth that much. I'll buy it for you for, this low price. So take it off your hands because I know you want to go and move. You don't want to live here anymore. Okay? And that is behind this concept of white flight. Okay, here's a little bit more example of your redlining. Banks engaged in redlining, drawing lines on a map to identify areas in which they refuse to loan money. Okay. It is illegal, but enforcing it is difficult. Okay. And the Community Reinvestment Act requires banks to demonstrate that inner city neighborhoods within its service area receive a fair share of loans. So that's one way, recent, and I do not remember the year that that was enacted. I had it written down. I don't have it in front of me. So that banks could not continue on with this concept of redlining. Okay, gentrification. Okay, individuals buying and rehabilitating houses, raising the house value in the neighborhood. Gentrification, making a house better. Taking that junk house that's in your neighborhood, might be, in a good neighborhood, a nice neighborhood, a middle class neighborhood, and taking that house that has just fallen into disrepair for whatever reason because of the owners, buying it, okay, I don't want to say reinventing, rehabilitating, um, reinvigorating, not sorry, renovating. That's the word I'm looking for. Renovating the house and then raising the house value in that neighborhood because now you just have one more house of good stature, again, that's renovated, nice to look at, and that raises the value of a neighborhood. This is done usually on a larger scale other than just one house. It can be done with just one house, but gentrification of downtown areas, of old apartments, of old inner city townhomes, or central city, CBD, where the townhomes and the brownstone houses used to be, and now they're considered more historical. I forgot the word again. Not revitalizing or reinventing. Renovating, sorry. Renovating the houses, um, and truly making it a place to go, nice visual of these houses again, and it raising the housing values in the neighborhood. Okay, another concept, commercialization. City government transforming a central city to attract residents and tourists, often in stark contrast to the rest of the central city. Okay, this happened in New York City. Okay, this definitely happened in New York City. I mean, New York City in the 1980s, you didn't really want to go visit. Okay, you did not want to go visit, but nowadays it definitely is a tourist haven, a mecca. I realize it always had the Statue of Liberty, but maybe you didn't make it there because it wasn't so nice to travel around. But now it's definitely is a tourist area. Of course, Broadway is cleaned up, Wall Street, all the business districts, the arts districts, and it is a place to go. Okay, it is a place to go. That's only one of many examples. Tear downs. I don't know what your exposure to that is. I have seen it a lot in Florida. Houses that the owners buy just to tear them down to build larger homes. I'm trying to think of an area. I can tell you that the closest one that I know of is, well, actually in Capel and Flower Mound. Your older houses, your kind of ranch style houses that have the large acreage around them. You can see it along 2499. You can see it going out Main Street and 407 in Flower Mound. You can also see it in Capel, although most of those kind of older ones have been totally torn down already, but they're still in your older part of Capel, where people are tearing down the houses. They're probably built in the 1960s, 1970s, and buying them just to flatten them, level them, to build, actually this next term, a new McMansion. Okay? The concept of tearing it down to build a McMansion. That is kind of the colloquial term, the slang term given to them, where it's often built to the outer limits of a lot, not a lot of yard to play in, not really necessarily a lot of backyard. The house is the destination. You know, you're building a McMansion and you're spending most of your time indoors. And again, these McMansions, Capel and Flower Mound, I definitely know have a lot of examples of these. I cannot think of too many going on in Louisville. I can tell you that along Valley Parkway, you know, you see those houses that have a lot of land. One of them has a pond in front of them. One of them has some horses in front of it if you're driving along and coming to the crossroad of Corporate, and then if you keep going north towards Bel Air and stuff like that. Um, those houses are definitely, if you look at the style and the architecture, are 1960s, 1970s houses. They are old, I guess, by house standards or suburbia standards. And I wouldn't be surprised if one of these days, whoever, when they go for sale, someone buys them, tears them down, and puts up a nice house because it's got plenty of land. You just put a newer house, I guess, a more updated house on that, you would have your McMansion. Okay, I had to pause there for a second. All right, in renovated. Look, that is the word I have not been able to think of, and it's right here on this slide. The renovated houses. You can see this picture. Okay, now whether this is a house that you would live in or not on the right-hand side, whether or not you like its style or architecture or whatever, you can definitely see that there is a difference between the left-hand picture that it was and the right-hand picture that it is. Okay, Renovation. You're much more likely to buy the right-hand side picture, not the left-hand side picture. It's overgrown. That nice green color is very 1970s outdated. The roof is outdated. The bushes, you can't even see through the windows. Those windows are large, and I don't even know the pattern, the curtainy thing that I see in there. I don't know. I wouldn't like it. So you definitely can see that renovation houses do bring up the price, um, bring up the price of the house. Okay. I do want to point out that usually gentrified, and I already kind of spoke of this, inner city neighborhoods also attract middle class individuals who work downtown. This concept of urban living, not suburban living, but necessarily, but urban living, uh, working, playing, and living all in the same area. Again, I've used this example before, but you can kind of think of it as New York City. You know, they are there. You see it in a lot of movies. You see it in a lot of shows. They are walking to work. They are walking to their clubs and social areas, museums that they're going to. They are walking to their neighborhood markets. They are not getting in the car and going to Walmart and buying $200 worth of stuff for the week. They're probably going shopping um, at least every 2, 3, 4 times a week for their stuff because it is so close. All right, so that is part 4. We will begin part 5 with urban sprawl. Woohoo! If you have any questions, as always, email your teacher.